Hi, this is Pastor Mark Biltz with El Shaddai Ministries, and I am so excited to have with me my very good friend, Danny Ben Gigi. Let's give him a hand. Yay! We all love Danny.
Thank you, Pastor.
And he's come out with this new phenomenal book called The Supernatural Life of Hebrew. It's amazing. Look at this. He has Unraveling the Amazing Story of the Only Immortal Language of the Ancient World. Why do you call it immortal?
Well, look at we mentioned it many times in the past. Many languages are mentioned in the Bible, just like many nations. You know, if you look through Genesis and further, you will find out the nations and their languages, the Girgashian, the Jebusite, even the Aramaic and the Ammonite and the Edomites, and all those had languages. But the nature, to wrap it up, the nature of languages is like the nature of other lives. You know, they have a beginning point when they're a baby, and they grow and develop and reach their peak, just like humans, you know, and then they start subsiding, and eventually they die off and disappearing from the face of the earth, never to come back again. This is true for every language and for a lot, you know, but it's not true for Hebrew. Hebrew is a supernatural language. You see what happened? The language was almost, I stress the almost, extinct, right? But still, it never disappeared. It was still burning there like a little pilot fire, waiting to erupt and to surge again, you know, to emerge again. And that's what happened to Hebrew, unlike any other language of the ancient time. Likewise, the people of Israel never disappeared, despite the will of many enemies throughout the history to annihilate the people. They took them to exile, and they dispersed them among faraway nations. And you look at that, and Israel, still a great superpower under God, with all the difficulties we have among the nation, it's still a great superpower, and you cannot be a superpower that small and still mighty if God does not want it.
Oh, exactly. I can't help thinking of Latin. You know, Latin is a dead language, but I had to study it in high school because so many other languages, it's the root of it. But Hebrew is the only one that's literally resurrected from the dead.
Exactly. And throughout the time that it was kind of dormant, it did affect Latin, it did affect Greek. You know, I'll take the word that is so important in Greek, agape. If any one of you heard the agape is the love, right? But you know, the Greek cannot pronounce the G correctly, the G.
Yeah.
So it's ahava. So it's ahava. So there is the A in the beginning, and the Gimel is actually a Hey, and the P, it's a B. So, you know, there is a place there in the Golan called the Banyas.
Yes, actually, of course, I've been there.
But actually it's Panyas.
Panyas, yes, it's a P.
Right, but they couldn't pronounce it, they said Banyas, you see?
Exactly.
So, agape is ahava, it's the same spell, same characters. So even that word was taken from there. Many in Latin, we don't even want to get into that, but there are thousands of words that you already know, people already know, but they don't know. Hebrew words, inside English, inside French, inside many Latin languages, you know, Roman languages, but they don't know that they know them, and they come up suddenly, oh wow, that's
exactly. One of the things that's amazing to me about this book, I mean, there's a lot of books on learning Hebrew or things like this, but yours also brings out things almost no one talks about. Tell me about these astounding time flips.
Oh, the time flips is an amazing subject. I mean, I knew it all my life. Anytime you know Hebrew from birth, and I started speaking Hebrew as soon as I was born. Maybe a few minutes later.
Yeah.
But all of us, we know it by birth, but we don't really come to think about what kind of a time capsule is in the language itself. You ask the common person, where do we hear about prophecy in the Bible? Most people will tell you, oh, by the prophets will be. No, actually, it's not really restricted to prophets. Almost every, and quote that, almost every verse in the Bible is prophetic.
Wow.
Wow. And why? Why is it prophetic? Take a simple word that God says. Okay, so it has to do with a very peculiar, strange, unexplained phenomenon in the Hebrew tongue where a verse, and it's called the flipping vav. You know, there are 22 characters in Hebrew, 22 characters, that's all. One of them, the sixth one, called vav, and it does look like a nail.
Yeah,
you
it
know, and
connects.
it means something to people, that nail, right? That nail means end, A-N-D. But that nail helps to connect words in Hebrew. If I were to say Danny and Mark, I would say
Right.
Danny ve Mark. Or David and Solomon, I would say David ushlomo or veshlomo, and so on. You
Right,
know,
right.
ve
It's a
means end.
conjunction. It
It's a
combines two
conjunction.
things.
That's exactly what it is. It's a conjunction. But in biblical Hebrew, it is used as a conversive. So it actually flips the sentence. If it comes before a verb, it flips the verb from past to future and vice versa. Now that sounds very weird, right?
Yeah.
And this is biblical Hebrew. We don't talk like this, but the Bible is written in that way. For instance, when everybody knows the verse, God says, I am what I am, right? It says the answer. But that's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew says, I will be whatever I will be.
So it's not present, it's future.
It's future. So now it makes you think, oh, wait. So it's not just a tale about what happened in the past. Everything in the Bible, it's future oriented. So it's already projecting to the future. God says, not I am what I am. So that means something that happened in history and maybe it ended. No, it's an open-ended statement that says, I will be whatever I will be. It's all project. And you know what? You find me one verse in the Bible that doesn't have it, and I would say you found a rare verse. Every single verse in the Bible that has a verb, it is already flipping it either from the future to the past or vice versa. But when you translate it to English, of course, they are doing the easy job and they're not going to put, I will be whatever, even though that's what the Hebrew grammar calls for. They will say, I am what I am. And guess what kind of treasures you can find if you think this way, you know?
Yeah. I was just thinking, you know, you got the past, the present, and the future, but God feels all of that, doesn't he?
Exactly. And you know, this is another great mystery. I don't know if your audience know the name of God, or you can maybe put it on the
Let's talk
screen.
about that. That's what in
Okay.
your book. You talk about
It
that in
is.
your book.
It's the second chapter there.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the time code in the name of God. The Yud
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
The Yud Hey Vav Hey. You
Yeah.
know? That name, which English people call it the Yahweh, you know?
Yeah.
That name, I don't say it in
Right.
Hebrew, but there is a reason for that.
Yeah.
It's besides the point here. Those four characters, Yud Hey Vav Hey, are not just mere letters. They are not. So God's name is not just a mere name. It's not like David and Daniel. No, it's very unique. Why it is unique, and what's the time? What is the time code embedded
Yes.
in those four characters? Can we put them in the screen when we talk? You know?
We can have Jill put it up later. She can add it.
Yeah. Okay. So those four characters. Look at that. They encompass just four characters. Actually encompass and contain the entire nature of existence. And what do I mean? Take the word, for instance, for the word was in Hebrew. We look, as people, as human beings, we can only relate to three manifestations of existence, right? We can relate to past, we can relate to future, and we can relate to present, right?
Right.
That's all we know. This is what, in our limited ability as human beings, that's all we have. But now, if you take a look at the word, let's get the word was, is haya, and it's spelled with hey, yud, and hey. Wow, that's almost completely God's name. But people will say, well, that's a coincidence. I mean, it happened to be this way. Well, let's look at the word will be, future.
Future.
Which we were talking about here, everything projected to the future. And what's the name for God? The short name from God is Yah,
Yes.
right? Like in
Yud Hey.
Hallelujah, the
Yeah.
Yud Hey. So the will be in Hebrew is Yud Hey, twice
Yeah.
together in one word, and that's Yihiyeh. And skeptical people say, well, you know, it's probably still a coincidence. I say, well, nice. Let's look for another one, and that's the present. And present in Hebrew is Hey, Vav, Hey. 3/4 of God's name.
Yeah.
Hey, Vav, Hey. You know, like the name. And that's present. And what it really encompasses the
Everything.
entire spectrum of existence. And there is one more tense in Hebrew
Yeah?
that does not exist in English.
Really?
It's a
What tense
tense.
is that?
It's called the imperative. The
Imperative.
imperative is the command. And if you look at the very first time God speaks in the Bible,
Yeah?
before he says anything else, he's using an imperative. In Genesis, in the beginning there, he says, as people know,
Like me.
yeah, well, in English you'll see it
Be
says,
light.
let there be light. And let there be is a very weak expression.
Yeah.
He doesn't say let there be. Like, what is it? He's asking some apparatus to create a light? No. He's using the imperative. And what he's saying,
Be light.
Be light.
Yeah, exactly.
Be, that's a command.
Yes.
And what he's using to say be in Hebrew, Yud, Hey, Yud. Once again, he's using his name
Yes.
to create the light.
Amazing.
Yud, Hey, Yud, Yehi, that's be light, and there was light. So there was no need to mediate between God uttering a word and the action to take place. His word is the action, and his word is part of his name.
In Psalms, it says, the entrance of your words brings light.
Exactly, and that's what they're relating to.
I know.
This is exactly what yes, that's a great, right. The utterance of the word, of God's name, brings the light. And
So
that's
light had to be first. He's uttering, and he is light.
Exactly.
That to me is just totally amazing. Tell me about the changing essence of God. Is it Lord or Lords?
Well, that's a very big subject. We'll not be able to encompass it here.
Okay.
It's a big chapter in this book. Basically, what we did here, you know, the word Adon, well, how do we start it to make it really in a capsule of this interview? The word Adon, let's start it differently.
Okay.
When we adding a word with I, you know, any word that ends with I makes it my, and it's for
Possessive.
plural nouns. So every noun in Hebrew is predetermined to be either masculine or feminine. Every noun,
Right.
you know, globe, globus, it's a masculine word. And yad,
Hand.
a hand, is a masculine word. Okay, feminine, right? Yad gdola. And so on. It just happened to be, you know, and Torah, you can hear by the ending or anything
hey.
ends in singular with the
Torah,
sound
yep.
of it's a feminine noun.
Okay.
Feminine noun. Okay. So now, if you are now possessing, belonging, right? Anything that has to do with my and its plural nouns, it will ending with the sound I. Like yad, but there are hands, you would say yadai, my hands. Ozen.
I gotcha.
Ozen is an ear. Oznai, my ears. My feet, raglai.
Gotcha,
My books,
gotcha.
farai. I, and I.
That's easy to remember. I.
Right, I. That makes it my.
Yep.
Okay, but the word for Lord is Adon in Hebrew. Singular word for Lord is Adon. So for a singular possession, it's E in the end. Yad will be Yadi.
Yadi.
Ozen will be Ozni. Regel will be Ragli. Sefer will be Sifri.
And that means what? When it's E
A
at the end?
singular possession.
Singular.
Yeah, possessing a singular noun.
So
Possessing
would Adonai be, or Adoni be my Lord?
Adoni will be my Lord, right? My Lord will be Adoni. But we see the word Adonai. And
Well,
that-
so what does that mean? What
that-
does Adonai mean? If Adoni is my Lord,
yeah, exactly. So Adonai means my lords, my Lord, and that's
It's plural.
It is plural. And if you go along that chapter here in the book, you will see an uncontested proof that the Trinity or the Triunity,
Yeah,
whatever people like,
triunity.
the Triunity is part of the Old Testament. Uncontested, clear as day that it's the word there. And why is the reference? Well, it's a whole chapter there. I don't want to take all the
does
time to do it.
Abraham use Adonai when the three messengers appear to him?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Amazing.
absolutely. And he talks to them as plural. But it's very intricate, but I broke it down to we call it like the subatomic dissection of words.
Yeah.
And so anybody can understand it, and it's translated to Hebrew, and it's verse by verse, several references there.
Okay.
And in the next chapter, I think is Genesis 19, right? And I really
Yeah.
recommend people to see that and get the proof that is completely
Amazing.
plural.
Is
Right.
the spelling different from Adonai and Adonai?
Absolutely. No,
Oh.
the spelling is the same. Adonai, spelling is the same, but the vowel is different, you know?
The vowel is different.
Right.
So it's a different spelling because the.
Actually, Adoni, you'll put it with the vav, and Adonai, you don't put the vav there. They'll do it just with the vowels. So you can see.
Well, see, the reason why I asked is there's no vowel points
Exactly.
in the Torah.
Right.
So could someone say it's really that, or
Right.
does the spelling say no? It has to be pronounced
Mostly the
this way.
spelling is different, yes.
Okay,
It
that's
is-
why
it
I was
has the vav
wondering.
there, and you know it's
Okay.
Adoni or Adonai. And you can see even there that how it really reflects how does it relate to them. Because the English and the Hebrew says them in plural, you know? Them in plural.
Well, what are some of these hidden codes in the Hebrew Bible?
Okay, now we're reaching something that some people doubt its legitimacy. We're talking about basically gematria.
Right.
So people don't know what gematria is. Basically assigning numeric values, not numerology. But
Right.
numeric-
It's just like algebra.
Exactly. Assigning numeric values to Hebrew character.
Right.
It's been a very old practice, and they just like try to get another dimension to understand things. Some people even, do that in order to understand things about, the nature of the world and even the outer space, and calculate it. It's very much combined with what NASA can do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a whole subject on its own, but this is the supernatural view of that is not. In that case, it's not supernatural. It's the value, even the dates in the Bible or the chapters.
Yeah,
Chapters
exactly.
and verses
Everything. Exactly.
don't have numbers; they have Hebrew letters.
Right.
So to make it simple, you assign it a number.
Yeah.
Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, and so on.
Right.
So now the question is, what do you do with that? And you can find very interesting
Oh, yeah.
results when you put it like that. If those numbers mean something, or you can see, for instance, one name
Right.
equals another one. Wow,
Yeah.
but it's by just numbers. If it's legit or not, people can decide. One of the uses of those numerics is something in the field that most Christians will see as not positive. That's the Kabbalah.
Right.
Yeah, so we did put disclaimers in the book.
Of course.
We did explain something of the basic of that.
Yeah.
So people will not need to go to some website and
Yeah.
get their mind confused with other things.
Right.
We put some principles of that, but with a disclaimer that we're not promoting it or
Right.
pursuing anything, but it's good to know more or less what people are talking about.
Yeah, well, the thing
know.
that I like about it, first off, Christians need to know there's a big difference between astrology and astronomy. Astronomy is a science. God created everything scientifically.
Right.
And the difference between astrology and astronomy, astrology says it's all about me.
Right.
Astronomy says it's all about him. And I think it's the same thing with gematria. I think gematria is totally legitimate, okay, but you're not supposed to be looking to things concerning you. I see it as God as the best mathematician in the world. And when you compare the legitimate numbers
Right.
with the letters,
Yes.
one of the things I thought was so interesting, just like in algebra, when I took algebra, you can have these different letters, but they can end up equaling the same letter because you're either adding or subtracting.
Exactly.
And so what I thought was so fascinating in Hebrew, what some people do, they look at the words that have the same numerical value, and then they try to see what the connection is.
Exactly. That's another. And there is many ways to do that. I don't think there is anything negative there.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly legit as long as it doesn't become the main practice of somebody.
Yeah, as long as
the
that's not
Bible.
their focus. But
Right.
but what about, 72 names for God? How many names does God have? That's amazing.
Okay, so it's 72, exactly 72. Now that, again, the disclaimer, these are what comes out from so-called the practice of Kabbalah. Again, I'm going to tell here, we're not promoting it, we're not calling for anybody, but it's a known thing, so we put a chart with those 72 names. You look at them, they don't look like they have on their own meaning. I never tried even to see the numeric value. You can, there are letters.
Sure.
And I put the key of the numerics, how do they, the key, what's the value of each number, so anybody can put that. But there are 72. 72 is also a very special number, How many people translated the Bible?
Yeah, right.
Not only the one Bible, but also the Septuagint.
So that's what I was thinking of, is the Septuagint.
Right, the Septuagint, but also how many people worked for King James to translate? They say what? They say 70, and actually there were 72.
Yeah.
And there are more in the number 72, I just want to say one thing about Kabbalah. People automatically, in Israel, if you talk to people, except for those who deal with Kabbalah, they will tell you, oh, this is something very,
they think of Madonna and the red string and Lucky Charms kind of stuff.
Yes, and they think, oh, if you even touch that stuff, you're going to get crazy. Well, all that is, how do you say it in good English? Baloney.
Yeah.
Nobody will get crazy, and there is really nothing really bad in that thing. Although I don't see anything good in that too.
Yeah. Well, the devil pollutes everything God has. God makes it and he pollutes it.
Exactly. And what really makes it so negative is the misuse.
Totally.
It's a misuse.
Totally.
And it was misused in our history, in a terrible, horrifying way.
Yeah.
And that gave it its bad name. I may mention it in 2 words here. What happened is that they viewed that book of Kabbalah, which really was meant to make God greater.
Right.
Not anything negative there, but here is how it was misused in such a way that almost caused the entire Jewish nation to disappear from the face of the earth not that long ago.
Wow.
Not that long ago. Here is an example of misuse. In the year 1662, not that long ago, right? A man appeared in Podolia, Poland, and this is a time of Jews had been very oppressed in Europe.
Yeah.
They couldn't go to school, they couldn't do any job that are, they had to push to do horrible, and they killed them and they attacked them and all that. They were crying every day to the help of God to take them back to the Holy Land, to the land, get me back the land, People are longing. And a man appears by the name Shaddai Tzvi, appears in the biggest community there in Podolia, Poland. And this is a big community. This is where they study the Torah, and they're going very deep in the studies. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, let me present myself. I am the Messiah that came here to the salvation of Israel. And people are shocked. They were praying for that Messiah for so long, and we don't have any recordings from that time, naturally. But they said to him something along these lines, can we see a positive ID?
Yeah, right.
And he said, of course. And he put down the book of Kabbalah, and with an acrosticon, say, count every 25 letters. And he came equipped with a letter from the biggest Kabbalist of the time. And the great Kabbalah center, the Jewish center, was in Gaza at the time. And his name was the rabbi or the prophet Nathan from Gaza. And he wrote him a letter, said, this man is, I attest to that. So they checked in the Kabbalah and said, wow, if you count every 25th letter, it comes out that his name is Messiah. And he was so excited and so propelled. So after some times of glory and fame, they said, well, we need action here. Say, well, you got it. And Israel was on that time was still under the rule of the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
And he goes right there to the city of Kushta,
which is
Constantinople.
Today
it is Istanbul.
Right.
And he goes to the Sultan, the big leader, and he says to them, nothing short than, let my people go. Just in those words, just like Moses. And the Sultan, again, no recording, but there's many evidence.
Stories.
Said to them something along the line, you know what, I was very impressed of your presentation, buddy, but here are your 2 options. 1, you convert to Islam before sunset, or I'm going to hang you on this beautiful tree outside of my palace before sunset. Make your choice. What do you think his choice was? Converted to Islam. Now, that cannot be in Judaism. You see, once a person converts out of Judaism, it's considered to be a complete annihilation.
No.
Complete no-no. So how does he explain it? He uses a principle from that Kabbalah, twists it, and the principle is called the departure of the righteous man, meaning dig in the mud, dig in the dirt to bring out the good. We know this principle.
Right,
the one who works in the
truth
evil
rises from the earth, it says in the Bible.
You work hard in order to bring. The one who studied it, will get. So he took that principle of the Kabbalah, and it's called the departure of the righteous man, and said, now you need to do everything. It's just like break every law in the Bible and to bring out the good. And he made people eat pigs.
Oh my gosh.
And break everything.
Oh
in the
my
Torah.
gosh. That sounds like what the Antichrist is going to do.
Exactly. But exactly. This is exactly.
He's going to make everyone want to be lawless.
And he is the false Messiah. But at that time, when he did that, hundreds of thousands of Jews were doing every atrocity that was in the Bible. And all that in the name of Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And when they found out, they were almost extinct. They almost did not exist anymore.
Wow.
Jews will not allow the children go to the school anymore, to the synagogue, because this is where they swept their mind to this Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was almost, we were just about to disappear. No television, no books. I mean, people didn't know how to read if they didn't have a teacher.
Yeah.
And so it was saved by, believe it or not, by the Hasidim. A man came up and said, hey, what's the issue? No, my children never go to school anymore. So why? I said, because they're teaching them this Kabbalah, they'll get them crazy. We don't want it. He said, who said so? God is everywhere. You want to pray. Well, pray in your backyard.
Yeah.
That brought back the spirit of Judaism.
Is this why a lot of the Hasidic or the different denominations in Judaism don't want to be in the military, don't want to work, all they want to do is sit and study?
I don't know. No, that's not the reason.
Okay.
That is a very painful thing in Israel. They call it their trade is their faith. Okay, so that's very nice. It was a group of people that will dedicate their life to study. When Israel was established, there were maybe 900 of them in Israel. And Ben Gurion, the first prime minister, looked and said, okay, can we give the what's the word? Leeway. Can we give them an
exception?
Yeah, and say, okay, you don't need to go to the military. You go and study, and that will help the people of Israel.
But that works at 900 people, but not when there's 9 million or whatever, 900,000 or whatever.
Now it gets to such a number which is impossible for the society to even support these people. They take resources and pay them.
Oh, yeah.
And now they want to pay them the same amount that they pay to a soldier.
That's
is a law in the Knesset now.
That's crazy.
I know. This is a very painful issue in Israel. That money, not only that, but these people, okay, so they want to study, but only Torah. But the government is, or the logical Israel says, okay, but teach them core studies,
math,
or English or something, so they can still work and be later on productive. No, they refuse that too.
Oh my gosh.
They refuse that. So they end up to have no education. They cannot contribute to the society. And now the numbers are growing, and it's going to be close to
9,000,
500,000, and
oh wow, more 500,000.
Yeah,
wow, that's a lot.
Well, close to that. The number grows because it's very easy to see it and study, which is nice.
Yeah.
But that's
fine. Getting back to your book, tell us about the 10 lost tribes.
Oh well, that was one of the biggest mysteries of the world. There are many, many assumptions of what happened to them. One of them, it's a big, it's Professor Weil. I took her article about that and I put it there. She did a really thorough, maybe the most thorough research about their whereabouts, and it leads back to some place that we saw it in another aspect. Years ago there was a program, ABC did it in Nightline, Ted Koppel, I think.
Yeah.
And they found out something very amazingly interesting. It's not even kind and nice to say it now, but they found out the traces of Israel, of the 10 tribes, in Afghanistan. You probably heard of that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, how did they get there and why? They found out very strange habits, customs of Afghani women. When they went there, they saw them putting candles on Friday night. Candles on Friday night, it's not ever a part of Islam. Islamic people will never light candles on Friday night. But many of them in remote villages in the mountains there. And now the second thing is the names, you know. Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. Kabul is the sediment in the bottom of lakes in Hebrew. It's a Hebrew name, Kabul. And whereas Bin Laden was hiding in the mountain called Tora Bora.
Tora Bora. Right.
And some other names there. And they find out persistent things. But of course, these people don't know. Yeah. And even the word Pashtun, you know, the Pashtun
language
in Hebrew is the same word as to raid on an area.
Raiders.
Raiders, right? Pashtun. And you know what? Another word for raiders is the Palestine. The Palestinians. Right? They took a name which is Plishtim. Palash in Hebrew is to mean to not to conquer, but to raid on an area, to infiltrate. You know, so the same word. You know, and now makes sense. I mean, why they're called? Because they came suddenly in large numbers and they raided an area. You know.
Well, this is my own personal opinion now, but. With the Assyrian captivity, you know, the northern tribes all went that direction, but the Silk Road was already there. I really believe a lot of these Jews took off and they didn't go to Europe. Most of them took the Silk Road, which is why you see a Hebraic influence in China, in Japan, in Korea. Yes. There's also a lot of Hebraic influence. Yes. And I think many of those lost tribes went east.
Yeah, it's very possible. Nothing was really traceable after that, so they tried to do. But there's a very interesting, not a story, but it's a kind of a scientific research about the 10 tribes in the book, the history of the 10 tribes, right here.
Well, who are the sons of God?
Oh, now you're
now I got you excited.
Yes. Now that subject. Okay, so we know about them. You know,
sure.
It's a very common thing among Christians to think for many years that they are demonic creatures. And we'll try to figure out why are they really called demonic? What do they know about them? Several verses. Most people know about one verse. The sons of God, they're mentioned in Genesis there. And they said in those days, you know, the sons of God came to earth and I showed you that before, and they saw the daughters of men that they're good looking. Well, you know, kitovotem, they're good. You know? And they married them and they had children.
Right.
Now, we cannot really tolerate the idea that demonic people will do that and you know, this is a horrifying thought, right?
Yeah.
But I did a whole spectrum analysis of the sons of God here, that there is another mentioning of the sons of God. Well, it says there, and who was born from them are either the Nephilim. Nephilim in Hebrew, I don't know if it means anything to people. Nephilim, again, always go to the subatomic level. And it's really, you don't need to do Hebrew to go do that. Nephilim come from the word nafil or nafal. And nafal means to fall.
That's what Sarah did off her camel when she saw Isaac.
Exactly. But look at the word, listen to the word nafal. You hear the F-A-L here?
Fall.
And that is fall.
Yeah,
even
exactly.
The English took it from the Hebrew.
Yes.
And that's fallen. And Nephilim are the fallen, those who fell down to earth, apparently.
Okay.
But
could it be fallen from grace?
Yeah, right. Fallen from grace. So, so then it says we know about the size, and we also know that they are men. It says the men of renown, right?
Yeah.
Men of the Anshe Hashem. Okay, but the Shem, a simplistic way to look at it is Anshe Hashem, men of renown. Okay, they have a great name. Nice, but Hashem has another meaning.
Yes.
And it is...
Well, the name.
The name.
Yes,
God, right?
God.
It's a reference to God. So if you were to look at it as face value, Anshe Hashem, the people of the Lord, the people of God.
Okay.
So far it looks like positive, but then positive does not come without the negative. Most people don't know, but you know it. Of course, you know the Bible through and through. You can teach me a lot about the
No,
Bible.
I doubt it.
Yeah, no, don't doubt it. You're one of the best I know in the world to know the Bible, and you know your teaching is like amazing. And I learned a lot of things from you, even today, you know. But when you look at the word, at the references, there is one that you mentioned before, and this is in the book of Job, right?
Yeah.
And in the book of Job, we learn that when the sons of God were preparing to present themselves in front of the Lord, well, apparently a meeting, an important meeting, and they went there, and Satan was among them, got among them.
That's what it says.
Now, that could be a very well, maybe he just took a ride. You know, they're going and he snuck in and okay, he presented it. But still, it could be a sinister meaning that, well, if they go and they see somebody doesn't belong to them, they say, hey, get away from here. You don't. No, but they didn't say it. You're still going with them in front of God. It could hint, and I'm not saying it's the case, but it could hint a sinister meaning and association of them going with Satan in front of God. To Satan.
I wonder if that meeting, is the word moed in there?
No.
In that meeting?
No.
I was wondering if it was an appointed time. I'm just curious because you're the one that would know that.
Well, I think
I'd be interested to see.
Yeah, but no. There's no moed. No, they just went to present themselves before God. You know,
I wonder what the purpose of that meeting was.
We don't know.
But it sounds like a meeting. It's like I wonder what the topic was of that conversation.
But picture a king, you know, sitting.
Yeah.
And now that he didn't have time to deal with the children all the time. Maybe they got to an age and say, okay, it's time to see them. Come on in. You know? Come on in. And I
love it.
You know, but they still call them the sons of God.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and there are other reference to them. Besides Nephilim, they also call them Amim. The word Amim means horrifiers.
Yeah, there's the Amims, E-M-I-M-S in English, as far as like the Anakims and all these other ones. Amims are one of the giants.
Yeah, right. But it has a meaning in Hebrew. Amim
is someone who is
in Hebrew means
horrifying.
Horror.
Amazing.
Yeah, right.
Amazing.
And Anakim just means giant.
Yeah.
But Amim means horrifying, you know.
Wow, that is amazing.
Right.
Now you have a download that comes with this, right?
Yes. Okay, so what we did here, for many people that want to learn Hebrew, we did something which is really for the first time, and I don't think that anybody else has done anything like that. But from my experience, people have difficult, when they want to learn Hebrew, it becomes difficult for them. Why?
They got to go slower.
They need slower, right? Everything is too fast, and that's the main complaint I hear. Oh, I can get some audio, or maybe CD in the past, and then it's too fast, I can't follow. What we did here, there is a chapter from Psalm, 2 chapters, the first and the last one, and they are, for the first time, narrated in 3 reading speeds.
Wow.
So they can see it written, and it's narrated in very slow, and normal reading speed, which is the best practice.
Oh, yeah.
I got some responses from people, and they said they loved it because finally they can really read Hebrew.
They can follow it.
Yeah, they can follow it. Yes. Right.
Wow, that's fantastic. What do you think is the most exciting thing about this book that people will be excited about?
What you just said in the first when you presented it, I touched subjects that people don't normally talk about. They just, either from embarrassment or because they are, I would say, a little controversial, or they just simply don't know because they had to do with the core of Hebrew. But the thing is not to know it. The thing is to present it to others. Well, you could be a great professor, you know, and I'm not, but somebody can be a great professor. And when you cannot convey and you talk above the heads of people,
exactly,
you lost the audience. So
who would you say this is for? Someone who's already knows all of Hebrew, or someone who's a beginner? How beginner level is this?
Even very beginners. The first part of the book, you know, the first part that before the Hebrew, it can really go to anyone that loves the Bible and is not afraid to deal with some subjects that are not discussed much, you know. I like those subjects.
Oh yeah.
The second part is for beginners, It can be very beginners, even people that know a little bit, but it goes step by step. There are many pages there that lead you, and everything's supported by audio. It doesn't have a CD because it's so much recordings cannot fit in a CD and so on.
Right.
So people download it and they can use it on their computer or on their phone or on the tablet or anything.
Sure. Well, I mean, I won't open the book for the camera, but it's got all kinds of, I love even the pictures, for me. But it's amazing, all the different things that you have in here. I think of the Tower of Babel, you have one on one tongue.
Yes.
But to me, everything I'm looking at, it looks like an easy book to read, but I'm sure it's heavy too. Just like God's Word, there's a lot there. But I think people would absolutely love this book.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you so much.
And where can they get the book? That's the big question. Where do they get it now? Your website.
Yeah, they can go very simply to the website, Hebrew1.com.
Hebrew, the number one, not word.
Right.
Hebrew and number one.com.
HEBREW1.com.
Wow.
And they can get it in different congregations and synagogues. And so
well, I wish every congregation would be carrying this.
Thank you.
Because I can't help but think of Zephaniah chapter 3, where it talks God is going to have one pure language for all the nations, just like it's going to be a reversal of the Tower of Babel.
Days are coming, and there is no doubt that this is the language spoken in heaven.
Yeah.
And on earth, and it's like recommended to anyone to really get it in a nice way, both to learn Hebrew and not to be afraid to learn a little about or discuss the subjects that are so important and crucial to us, God and its essence.
Oh, exactly. And, the Bible does say in the New Testament, when Paul got knocked off his high horse, and he heard a voice from heaven in Hebrew. And that tells you Hebrew is the heavenly language. Nowhere else in the Bible does it say when they speak from heaven, it's in any language but Hebrew.
Amen.
And so I love that. I love you being with us. Thank you, Danny. This has been great.
Thank you so much.
And I really encourage everyone, you got to get this book, The Supernatural Life of Hebrew, the Immortal Language. Wow. I think one of the interesting things is there's life to Hebrew. I really believe it. It's the immortal language, but I think that because it's almost, Yeshua is the Word of God. He's alive.
Yes.
And I see the Hebrew as being alive, and knowing Hebrew, the whole Bible.
Exactly. Even the New Testament looks different if you start using a Hebrew touch. Not to be a professor, not to be a teacher, not to be a scholar.
Just the basics.
Yes, just exactly seeing some of the Hebrew touch, and the New Testament is filled with that, without a doubt.
And I even find sometimes singing in Hebrew makes a big difference in the environment. There's something about the Hebrew language. It is alive, and it can make changes in your environment.
The sages, the ancient sages said that it's more important, it's paramount to pray in Hebrew.
Right, that's my point.
Even if the praying person does not know the words. This is really relate to what you just said. They believe that the sound of the word in Hebrew, because that is the language of creation, God created
and
the word.
words through sound.
Exactly, and when you say it in Hebrew, it resonates in a different way in the world that God created with the very same letters and language.
That's so phenomenal. I want you guys to really think about that. The Hebrew words has a resonance, and the world just reacts to that.
Yes, exactly. Well, they believe, the ancient belief, and that's both Christian and Jewish, that God created the world using the 22 characters of the Hebrew language.
Of course.
The whole world, the whole creation with 22 characters. And some people say, oh, how could it be? Well, look, what science is using 2 characters. Only
ones
2.
and zeros.
And one is 1, right? And look, everything, traveling to space, computers, medicine, nuclear,
everything.
All that with 2 characters. If that man, everything you see in technology, can reach with the use of 2 characters, guess what God can do with 22 characters?
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Danny, so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Tune in to esm.us, El Shaddai Ministries. Go to our website. We'd love to see you. Bye.